This religion can be traced back to ancient Egypt, Assyria, Babylonia, and Persia, and Plato referred to it as being old when he was writing, which means that it has its origins in prehistoric times. Now, the exact place and time it was created is unknown. We just know that it stretches back beyond the written word and is still around today. So this could actually be one of the oldest religions in the world. And you might ask, well, how come I haven't heard of it? And part of the reason why is because it doesn't have a name. For ease, I'm just going to refer to it as Gnosticism, but technically that's only one branch of it. Another branch of it is called Hermeticism, for example. Another reason why you've not heard of it is because a lot of the adherents don't even realise they're part of this religion. This religion is so good that atheists have fallen for it as well. Many atheists believe in it today and yet still think they're atheists because they don't realise what's going on. And part of the reason why you've not heard of it is because the higher-ups of this religion retain their power by keeping things secret. The Freemasons aren't exactly known for their openness about their concepts, and the point of this religion is to have secret knowledge. These are secret societies. The technical term is esoteric, meaning that only a small number of people are meant to truly know all the secrets of the religion. The rest of the people who follow it are only drip-fed information to keep them wanting more. So this is the nature of the beast. You've not heard about it because you're not part of the inner group of Gnostic priests, and they don't want you to know about it. And this is why I said I need you to take a leap of faith over this, because we live in a climate where everything just gets dismissed as conspiracy theories. So this is all being too fantastical to be true. Let's look at the evidence and see where it takes us. If you want to dismiss it at the end, that's fine, but at least look at the evidence first, because when you do, I think you'll see that the existence of this religion isn't a far-fetched idea. The best place to start is to define what Gnosticism is, which is a tall order, but I'm going to try anyway. Gnosis is a Greek word meaning knowledge, but it doesn't mean scientific information. It means divine knowledge or divine revelation. If you have Gnosis, you know the essence of God, as in the Holy Spirit has descended into your mind. So now you know the truth. You are now separate from the other mere mortals or worldlings. Under Gnosticism, you now know that there was a tragic split in the universe. For reasons we won't get into, the true God split into many pieces. Man was created during the split. The true God split into many pieces. Man was created during the split, but so was a false god known as the Demiurge. The Demiurge, or devil if you want to call him that, created the material universe as a prison for the soul of man. So your body is a prison. The world around us is a false reality. We are living in the Matrix, apparently. And now that the true God has implanted this nonsense into your head, your goal is to transcend the real world to reunite with God. So let me just rephrase this so we're all on the same page. Gnostics believe that the Christian or Abrahamic God is actually the devil, an evil false god. And the Christian God has imprisoned your soul in the material realm, and that your body is a prison. But if the true God communicates to you through divine revelation, you can realize all of this and work to overcome the material prison, and your soul can transcend back to the true God.
Hey, stop! Wait!
You won't get much out of them, young man. They've taken a vow of silence. They've taken a vow of silence. They've taken a vow of silence. I do most of the talking for them as we wander around the land.
Monarchy ad tenemus.
Monarchy am tenemus.
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 Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Had. Monarchy ad tenemus.
Monarchy am tenemus.
Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Had. Monarchy ad tenemus.
Monarchy am tenemus.
Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Had. Monarchy ad tenemus.
Monarchy am tenemus.
Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Had. Monarchy ad tenemus.
Monarchy am tenemus.
Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Had. Monarchy ad tenemus.
Monarchy am tenemus.
Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Had. Monarchy ad tenemus.
Monarchy am tenemus.
Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Had. Monarchy ad tenemus.
Monarchy am tenemus.
Monarchy ad tenemus.
Monarchy am tenemus.
Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Had.
What spirit was it that was bound to that flesh that walked the earth? That's Jesus. What spirit was that?
He had his own spirit, a human spirit.
Yeah,
before the
okay.
Holy Spirit enters him.
Did you hear what I said? Now, what you just said, listen carefully to me, gentlemen, please. You just made yourself a heretic of heretics. You just said God has created a human being and punished him for the sins of other human beings. Heresy. Heresy.
I
You're a
command
heretic. You don't believe the God of the Bible. You're a heretic. Here's the mistake you've made. If there was a mortal created spirit in that flesh and not God himself who suffered on the cross for our sin, when God has had one of his creations suffer for the sin of other creations.
Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Had. Monarchy ad tenemus.
Monarchy am tenemus.
Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Had. Monarchy ad tenemus.
Monarchy am tenemus.
The dissatisfaction with it grew partly out of the feeling that the doctrine of a hypostatic trinity was too metaphysical and savored of Gnosticism, but chiefly arose from the conviction that this doctrine trenched upon monotheism. To this antagonistic opinion, in its different varieties, was given the name of Monarchianism, a term first used by Tertullian. The opinion held in common by the Monarchians was that God is a single person as well as a single being. These adherents maintained that Christ was truly divine, but as divine was indistinguishable from God the Father, being one mode or manifestation of the divine being. These were termed in the West Petripeschians. In the East, they were usually grouped together under the name of Sabellians, the simple people, not to call them ignorant and common, of whom the greater portion of believers is always comprised, inasmuch as the rule of faith withdraws them from the many gods of the heathen world to the one and the true God, shrink back from the economy. They are constantly throwing out the accusation that we preach two gods or three gods. We hold, they say, to the monarchy.
Temporal generation and subordinationism were the two shortcomings of the doctrine. Otherwise correct, which the school called Trinitarian, opposed to the affirmations of its monarchian antagonist. To refute the error of the latter, Saint Hippolytus and his followers no doubt inclined to the opposite error. As to the opposition made to monarchianism by the church authorities, it deserves to be carefully studied. According to some of our documents, this opposition really never existed, and the bishops of Rome Victor, Zephyrinus and Callistus favored, and they professed heresy.
To complete the picture, it is necessary to add that Tertullian was also confronted by those whom he calls the simplices, that is to say, Christians who had received only basic catechetical instruction and who were disturbed by theological speculations and the psychici, who were largely members of the hierarchy and maintained a politic position midway between the two extreme tendencies. Because this conflict, which spread first to Rome and then to Carthage, began in Asia, it is important to understand the theological situation in Asia during the last quarter of the 2nd century. What seems to have been stressed by all Asiatic theologians at this time was the fact that God is one. This was because on the one hand, the Jews were accusing Christians of abandoning monotheism, and on the other, the Gnostics were contrasting the God of the Old Testament and the God of Jesus Christ. This emphasis on the oneness of God characterizes the teaching not only of the Montanists, but also of Irenaeus, in that it is this same affirmation of monotheism which we find in Notus and Praxeas. Why then did the conflict ever arise? What started it? It appears to have been the opposition to Montanism, first of Noetus and then of Praxeas. The accusations made against them were to begin with a reaction on the part of the Montanists. For it should be noted that their theology did not at first seem very different from that of most of the theologians in Asia, which found supporters in the hierarchy, firstly in Asia and then at Rome and Carthage. We are therefore bound to ask whether the charges brought against Noetus and Praxeas were really justified. To be precise, were they simply witnessing to an archaic type of theology? The word Monarchiani was first used by Tertullian as a nickname for the Patripassian group in his treatise against Praxeas, and was seldom used by the ancients. In modern times, it has been extended to an earlier group of heretics who are distinguished as dynamistic or adoptionist. However, the adoptionists or dynamists have no claim to the title, for they did not start from the monarchy of God, and their error is strictly Christological. An account of them must, however, be given here simply because the name Monarchian has adhered to them in spite of the repeated protests of historians of dogma. But their ancient and accurate name was Theodosians. The unity of the divinity was commonly guarded by a reference to a unity of origin. It was said that God from eternity was alone, with his word one with him as reason. In Vulca Codis, Logos en Diathetos, before the word was spoken ex or patris, Logos prophophorikos, or was generated and became son for the purpose of creation. The Alexandrians alone insisted rightly on the generation of the Son from all eternity, but thus the unity of God was even less manifest. The writers who thus theologize may often expressly teach the traditional unity in Trinity, but it hardly squares with the Platonism of their philosophy. The theologians were thus defending the doctrine of the Logos at the expense of the two fundamental doctrines of Christianity, the unity of God and the divinity of Christ. They seemed to make the unity of the Godhead split into two or even three, and to make Jesus Christ something less than the supreme God the Father. This is eminently true of the chief opponents of the Monarchians, Tertullian, Hippolytus, and Novatian. You can read from such sources in Thomas Newman's The Causes of Arianism. Monarchianism was the protest against this learned philosophizing, which to the simplicity of the faithful looked too much like a mythology or a Gnostic emanationism. The Monarchians emphatically declared that God is one, wholly and perfectly one, and that Jesus Christ is God, wholly and perfectly God. This was right, and even most necessary. And whilst it is easy to see why the theologians like Tertullian and Hippolytus opposed them, for the protest of the Monarchians was precisely against the Platonism which these theologians had inherited from Justin and the Apologists, it is equally comprehensible that guardians of the faith should have welcomed at first the return of the Monarchians to the simplicity of the faith, lest they seem to be asserting two gods, or, on the other hand, denying the Savior's Godhead. Origen on Titus Fragment 2. Tertullian, in opposing them, acknowledges that the uninstructed were against him. They could not understand the magic word oikonomia, the economy of God, with which he conceived he had saved the situation. However, they declared that he taught two or three gods, and cried, Monarchiam tenemus. So Callistus reproached Hippolytus, and not without reason, with teaching two gods.
What is your life? My honor is my life. What is your fate? My duty is my fate. What is your fear? My fear is to fail. What is your reward? My salvation is my reward. What is your craft? My craft is death. What is your pledge? My pledge is eternal service.
Monarchianism, a word that stirs fear, disdain, and discomfort in the hearts of devout modern-day Orthodox Christian circles. But what exactly did these early Christians, Monarchians, teach and guard against the wave of Gnostic attempts to synthesize the Hebrew faith and its holy scriptures with pagan mystical speculation? What kind of controversy between the Monarchians and Logos theologians brought about the greatest Christological dispute in the 2nd and 3rd century?
of every kind of exile, of every kind of challenge, good and evil mixed together, when we thought the Hellenists were right. Greek culture seemed to be the truth. Many Jews confused it for Judaism. And then
Christianity immediately found itself faced with the same problem that the rabbis were facing, using the same traditions. Christians began to define orthodoxy and heresy along much more complicated lines. Tertullian claimed that Marcionites, who postulated a second god, were antichrists like Jews. Monarchians and modalists claimed that orthodoxy, like the Gnostics and Marcionites, had compromised Christianity's monotheistic center. Therefore, they used two gods as a term of approbation against Orthodox Christianity, just as the rabbis did.
Separate him from the precious body and blood of Christ and from the society of all Christians. We exclude him from our Holy Mother Church and all her sacraments in heaven or on earth. We declare him excommunicate and anathema. We cast him into the outer darkness. We judge him damned with the devil and his fallen angels and all the reprobate to eternal fire and everlasting pain.
Modalism, monarchianism, in fact, was offensive only to theologians, particularly to those who felt the influence of the Platonic philosophy. Despite its condemnation in Rome and the establishment of the Logos Christology there and elsewhere, the tendency toward modalism has always been strong in the West. In the East, on the other hand, where Plato had more influence, the tendency has been rather the other way.
I am tenemus.